I'll never forget this moment when I was in second grade. I grew up not knowing about Christmas. My parents never really did Christmas. They were immigrants, very poor. And not only that, they came from a culture where Christmas was different to how it's done here in Australia. I was in school in second grade and the teacher was talking about doing a Christmas project. And I remember asking some kids around me, what is Christmas? And they were blown away. Like, what do you mean you don't know what Christmas is? Everyone knows what Christmas is. And so they started to describe it to me, and I'll never forget the descriptions. They said, it's a time where all your family just puts everything aside and they get together, and there's a lot of food and they eat a lot of food, and we share and we spend the day together without any distractions. And in my 7-year-old brain, something clicked, and I asked him, I said, hey, I think we call that Sabbath. See, I grew up in a poor home, like I said, and so my dad, oftentimes he'd leave before the sun came up and come back well after midnight. And there would be weeks where I would just never see my father. Not because he didn't want to be with his family, he was struggling to put food on the table. But I knew every Friday sunset, my dad would be with me all Sabbath. There won't be distractions, there won't be things to do. My parents, my sisters and I, we would spend the day together, and I loved it. Every single week. I remember come Wednesday, I was already asking Mum, how far till Sabbath? How far till Sabbath? In fact, my little boy Noah, come Wednesdays, Thursdays, he's already asking my wife and I, is it Sabbath soon? Because he knows come Sabbath, there is this day where we rest. We don't do work, we put everything aside and we spend the day with our family and our Lord. See, in Mark chapter 2, Jesus tells us that the Sabbath was made for us. Just think about it. The first place we find the Sabbath is right after creation. In the very beginning, God creates light, and then he makes the firmament, and he makes the land and seas. And at the very end, on the 6th day of creation, he makes people. He makes Adam and Eve. And the very first thing God does for them is give him the Sabbath. He gives him a day of rest. Now I want you to just pause and think about that. Adam and Eve had just been made. How much rest did they deserve? Yet the first thing God does is give them a gift of rest, which is a gift they don't deserve. Which, by the way, is what we call grace. Grace is a gift that you don't deserve. The Bible tells us that the reason God created us is to bless us and give us gifts. The Sabbath is the first grace God has ever given us. It's the first gift he gave people that we do not deserve. Every Friday sunset, every Sabbath that comes around, this is God's Christmas. But every week it's a time to stop, put all the distractions away. Love your children, be loved by your children, love your spouse, be loved by your spouse, and love your God and be loved by a God, because he's a God who in his nature, in his core of who he is a God who wants to give you gifts even if you don't deserve them.